Hello everyone, guess what we're testing today? 360 Toll Security, version 5.2, that's brand new. So what have we got here? Privacy protection, internet protection, and system protection. Now, most of you are probably well aware of the capabilities of 360 Toll Security. This is a multi-engine, mostly cloud-based security product that is entirely free. Anyone can basically go out there and grab this and use it to protect their system. So let's just look over the shields once again. By default, you get the 360 Cloud Scan Engine, their System Repair Engine, and their Heuristic Engine, which is QVM2 AI. And you have the choice to enable the Bitdefender engine as well as the Avira engine. Now, we're well aware of the detection capabilities of both Bitdefender and Avira, and we know that they get really high detection rates often. So, in this test, I will not be using these engines because, well, it's very easy to, go ahead and do the test with the Bitdefender and Avira engine and conclude that 360 has great signatures, which I've been doing for the past couple of years, but in this test, I just want to see what they can do on their own, how good their own detection ratio is. Of course, if you're a regular user looking forward to use this product, I would definitely recommend enabling Bitdefender and Avira. I mean, who wouldn't want these awesome engines to guard their computer if you do have the resources, which I guess most of you do. So obviously it is recommended to turn this on, but for this test, since we already know these engines do well, I just want to skip them and see how well these engines do, because we don't know a lot about these. So this is just the basic engine setup. You can obviously tune in lots of other stuff. They've got tools and they've got their new toolbox that's coming, so you can like vote for which feature you want, and based on which feature has the maximum votes, they will, I guess, add that feature to their next version. So at the moment, they have got a cleanup. So this is kind of like CCleaner, but once again, I do not recommend using these cleaners because they're usually not as effective as some of the other third-party versions. Now you can optimize your boot time, lots of neat stuff. I'm not going to go in depth on all these things because we've already touched on most of these. Now they still have their same settings. They haven't really changed too much over here, so not a lot to talk about. Once again, in terms of zero-day protection, that's where I don't see a very dedicated component. Of course, they've got the cloud and stuff can always join in, but there's no dedicated zero-day component to ensure that you will get a really solid, some zero protection against some unknown malware. So enough talk, let's get testing. So I'm not going to do a separate web prevention test because it just uses way too less samples to really accurately find anything. So we'll be using 921 samples that I have over there, and I'm just moving them. And first of all, I want to see how many of them are caught and blocked by the real-time protection itself. And then we'll just go ahead and do a scan without using the Avira and Bitdefender engines, and we'll see what kind of detection that gives us. So I'll give it some time to process these files. It should be able to catch most of these. Now, just to show you guys that I did have 921 items to start with, I can show you guys here. There you go, 921. And this is a combination of like fresh files, old files. Some of them might be duplicates, but that's why we have such a large number of files, so that we can get a fairly accurate detection ratio. Obviously, once again, I will be expecting really high detection ratio because most of these files are like more than 2 to 3 days old. So I'll wait for 360 to process, then I'll see how many are caught by the real-time shield, and then we'll do a scan and find out how many are caught by their scan, and then I'll do a slightly more interesting test, which I'm sure you guys will enjoy. So I'll just pause the video and I'll be right back when this processing is done. So the real-time scan has completed, and after processing all these files, we're left with just 60, which gives us a detection ratio of 93.48%, approximately 93.5%, which is pretty good on these files, and considering I'm not even using the Bitdefender and Avira engines. So they've definitely got some stuff going on in their cloud. But now, I'll just go ahead and do the scan, and we'll see if it detects any more. And it doesn't, because once again we're not using the Bitdefender and Avira engines, so it looks like the real-time scan and the custom scan, they're both using the same signature database. So this is the final result, which is pretty good, and I have no issues with it. And this is kind of what you'd expect with any really good antivirus product, to detect more than 90% of these files. So I'm fairly happy here, but now the problem is, what happens to these files? Can 360 block them? Or is it just going to be entirely based on its signatures? So that's going to be my concern, and what I'm going to do is I'll run these files right now. The internet's enabled, and everything's working just fine, and then we'll do a test without the internet. Now, yes, I know that this product heavily relies on the internet. It's mostly cloud-based, but I would still like to see if they've got any kind of solid, back-end zero-day component that works within the application itself. So that's something I'm really anxious to find out. But at the moment, I'll just do their cloud scan. It looks like it caught one more item. It won't really change the detection ratio, so I'm not going to recalculate. So let's see what happens on running these files if we can get infected. Okay, the funny thing is this malware comes with an icon of 360. This is some kind of Chinese adware, and it's allowed to run. This one wants to open registry editor, which is not a good thing, because malware usually writes to the registry and screws things up. So as you can see, there is absolutely no obstruction from 360. Now previously, when we test with the Bitdefender and Avira engine, what ends up happening is 360 blocks pretty much everything. So we don't really get to do the zero-day tests, but as you can see, 360 doesn't seem to be having too much of a zero-day component working behind it. So that's something that worries me a little bit, because it's all great when you're using files that are fairly old, but what if you get something that's brand new, that's not caught by any antivirus yet? Now in that case, if you don't have a zero-day component, you're definitely going to end up being infected. Now from what I'm seeing, I'm guessing that many of these files may also have been partially deleted by 360, because I'm not seeing an awful lot of action for the number of files that I'm running. So I'm not going to be too quick to judge anything from this test. Now this is some kind of Chinese task manager, very interesting. It's basically the Windows 7 or Windows XP task manager, but it's in Chinese. Very, very nice. I'm not sure if that's okay. Something interesting just happened there, and it crashed. So I have a feeling maybe 360 partially removed the malware from many of these files. That could be the case. Or maybe these are just plain bad files. But anyway, we did see some stuff happen. Now I'm unsure as to the extent of the infection. So what I'll do is I'll try to delete this folder, and we'll see how many files are left. So I'll just go ahead and delete them individually. then we can see which are the files that can be deleted. So there's just one file that's probably running right now, active in memory. So what I'm going to do now is I'll disable the internet on the VM. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll go ahead and disable our Ethernet adapter. So now we're disconnected from the internet. And I'm just going to grab the select infections into this computer and see what happens. As you can see, 360 does not detect anything because it's not connected to the cloud. But come to think of it, these files are all fairly old, like they're months old. These are just some selected files that I know are very well malicious, and any decent antivirus product or behavior blocking component or intrusion prevention would have no trouble at all in flagging these because they exhibit well-known malicious behavior. But this is going to tell us whether or not 360 really has a proper zero-day component working in the application. Now, the cloud can be like a semi-zero-day component. It can use signatures that are much more recent than, let's say, a database update, but it's still not a fully functional automated zero-day component that can protect you against malware that has not been seen before. So it's just an improved signature, but it's not exactly truly a zero-day component if that's just what they're relying upon. But that's what we'll find out through this test. If they have anything in the application itself to protect us. So before I just start this test, I'll go through the settings once again, just to be sure that I haven't turned anything off. Now for active protection, as you can see, they've got plenty of options, but nothing really specific to your, behavior blocking or something like that. And the settings menu is not as detailed as I would like it to be personally, but I guess it's made considering most people don't really want to access their anti-malware settings, so they just want to keep it simple, which is okay as long as it works, but I don't see any kind of zero-day component here. That's something that's troubling me. So I'll go ahead and run some of these files and we'll see if they're able to cause any real damage. Now, Windows 8.1 is inherently secure from a lot of malware because lots of vulnerabilities that these malware rely upon is fixed in Windows 8.1. So if you're seeing a lot of malware running and it's not working, even though the antivirus hasn't processed any of these files, it's probably because they do not work well with Windows 8.1. But the reason I'm using Windows 8.1 is because this is the way it's going to work from now on. So even if there are users that are using Windows 7 right now or Windows XP right now, doesn't really matter because this is going to be the future of security. If Windows keeps getting better in security, malware will have to keep getting better as well. And there's no point of just sticking to the same old Windows XP and just sticking to it forever. Because eventually people will have to upgrade because there'll be no more support, and it may take a couple of years, but ultimately, it's going to change anyway, whether you like it or not. So that's why I always test on the most recent operating system out there. As you can see, a lot of these files are running successfully, and I can see the system slowing down now, and I'm not seeing any kind of alert from 360. And there's just plenty of stuff running right now, as you can see. So what I'll do is I'll just stop this test right here. It looks like 360 doesn't really have any kind of a real zero-day component, which is what I was suspecting, which is why I did this test in the first place. So I'll reboot the computer, then we'll do a couple of scans. I'll try to delete these folders, and then we'll see how bad is the final result. Hitman Pro scan reveals what we've been suspecting for a long time, that the system was badly infected. In fact, it was just as if there was no antivirus installed on the system. So that is what happens if you go offline with 360 toll protection. It's great if you're online, it has a really nice detection ratio, but if you're offline and you access any malware, even if it's old, it's going to be led through just as if your protection just doesn't exist. As long as you're offline, there's absolutely no point of having this thing running, which we just found out because it did nothing. Now, I'm not going to hate on it, or I know a lot of people are going to criticize me for doing this test in the first place because this is clearly cloud-based security. But this is something that everybody needs to consider, that do you really want to be completely vulnerable when you just turn off your network card, or let's say you're, just traveling and you don't have an internet connection on your device? Well, you still may use a thumb drive, you still may get infected, and it's not the same with everyone. It varies from person to person. Some people just use a computer that's just hooked into the internet at all times. In that case, this is not an issue. But even then, the point to note here is that even if you are connected to the internet, there is no real-time behavioral blocking. There is no analysis of the file that's running on your system to find out what it's doing or whether it's doing something malicious. It's completely cloud-based, and you can say the cloud signatures are semi-zero day, like they can protect you better than just having a signature database on your computer. That's true. It's like having real-time updates without having to wait for an update to be released, but at the same time, that is not going to, help you analyze malware in real time. So you don't have a proper zero-day component here. So if you're using 360, it's just great signatures, but it's not that great when it comes to zero day. And of course, if you use Bitdefender and Avira engines along with the already pretty good 360 Cloud Scan engine, there is a really good chance that you won't need any more protection because the signatures will be so good that they'll protect you against almost everything. But for those few users who really want to have zero-day protection, I would not recommend using this product alone. This can be used as an add-on product, and considering it's compatible with a lot of other solutions, I have no issues with using this product. It's a great one considering it's free, but at the same time, we need to understand that everything has its weaknesses, and I just wanted to highlight that in this test. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Now I'm going to discuss something else about 360 that's fairly troubling. I've been getting a lot of reports from users about this company's profile, and that some people suggest that they might even be trying to spy on the people, or they use their users as a resource to do some stupid surveys. I don't really care, but the point is that people don't really trust 360 that much. And when you think about it, it is an interesting question because, I mean, come on, they're using Bitdefender and Avira engines. They've probably had to pay for these and also for their own servers and everything. Their products are free. They don't seem to have any, pro version or something from which they could actually generate some revenue from. They don't really have any advertising or affiliate links in the program to generate revenue. So where are they getting all this money from to run a company without really asking for anything from the users? So some people find that very suspicious, some people find that very generous. And for me here, I would once again stick to the golden rule that everybody's innocent until proven guilty. And although there's a lot of speculation and thoughts regarding, the background of 360 toll security, and pretty much, I'll be honest here, I'm not going to hold back. I'll just go ahead and say it straight out. Pretty much every Chinese company that you come to hear of has this, shady background that people keep talking about. But in the end, I would believe that there is not enough evidence, there's no conclusive evidence to suggest that this product actually, does anything malicious or harmful for the user. So, considering privacy is something they're supposed to protect you from, like they have something called privacy protection. If you're if you're someone who's really concerned, maybe you shouldn't use this, but there's, as I said, there's no conclusive evidence to say that this program does anything bad. Personally, I would probably stay away from it, but that's again just personal preference because I just like products that give me some zero-day protection, and at the same time, I don't want to use, especially an antivirus company that has a shady background. But for most users, there is absolutely no reason to be worried. You can go ahead and use this thing just fine. It doesn't do anything that I've found out, like, it doesn't really behave in any weird way or anything like that. And I was just giving you guys some insight, again, into the way the software works. But as I said, this is clearly an internet resource. So basically, if you don't connect to the internet, this application is downright useless. So keep that in mind. But if you are always connected, it's got great signatures, no reason why you can't use it, so go ahead and try it out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay informed, stay secure, and I'll see you guys in the next Peace Security channel video.